Hamzah Shanbari, welcome to the Preconstruction podcast.
Thank you for having me, Gareth.
You're welcome. And for anybody that hasn't seen Shanbari or Hamzah, he has been on every stage, in every podcast, and I could not wait to get him on board. I know you're supposed to be at Autodesk this week. You give it a miss for the first time in a while. How does it feel?
It feels strange. This is the first AU I'm missing since 2016.
Yeah.
That's including 2020 and 2021, which were actually virtual, but I still was in attendance and spoke to that too as well. But this is the first year that I think Autodesk decided to move it earlier in the year, rather than you usually do it in November, which
Yeah.
has worked much better for me because we have an innovation event happening next week, so I didn't want to be traveling and trying to do other things at the same time.
Yeah, priorities. Just give us an insight because the podcast, I've traveled a lot to Hanson Wade's conferences, specifically advancing pre-construction. I've never been to Autodesk. Just give us a high level understanding of what happens there, how good it is, what you get from it.
It's an interesting one. It's one of the largest. So I would say, like in terms of number of attendees, in terms of the content that gets puts out there. I really always get excited about the keynote kind of like information that Autodesk tries to put out there, kind of like in terms of product announcements or enhancements and stuff like that. It's really, they put on a show. They know how to put on a show, so it's exciting to see. But also, to me, like conferences is really not. I mean, yes, the speaking engagement and hearing what others are doing is part of it, but the biggest piece of it is the connections, right? And actually meeting the people that you either been speaking to virtually or collaborating with in different ways or haven't spoken to in a while, and just kind of catching up, so to say.
Yeah, absolutely. Your network, you're only as strong as your network, you know. I mean, coming across a problem in work and having a network to tap into within hours or days is so important. You can't just wait for the next conference to kind of stumble up and then ask the question or ask your questions. We're going so fast when it comes to innovation that you almost need the question answered within days, you know.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Good. So let's dive into Hamza, your background. Was it always construction for you? Was it always technology, or what was your growing up like?
It was always construction. So the story that I have, that I think I've mentioned prior, is I thought I was going to be an architect. I've always had like a knack for like looking at designs and look at how that building is shaped and stuff like that. But like part of my growing up in Saudi Arabia, um, I would come back from school, like I'm talking elementary school, and there was a house that was built right next to us, and I would just throw my backpack down and just go to the window immediately right after school, and just watch them for hours at a time. And to me, it's like what's fascinated me about construction wasn't really like, yes, the equipment were cool. You see the big excavators and bulldozers and all that stuff. Yes, that's cool stuff for especially for kids. But I was watching the people and the amount of problem solving that they were dealing with on a daily basis. I would just see them like scratching their head and looking at the drawing and trying to figure out, all right, this doesn't really work. How do we overcome that, right? How do we make it work? How do we kind of go around it? So that always fascinated me.
Yeah. There's no doubt about it. There's challenges on site and delivering projects. It's difficult, but with the advancements in technology and pre-construction getting better, there's less of that, thank God. And when you were looking at that, Hamza, did you think, wow, that I want to be involved in this in some capacity, or was it I want to do what they're doing? I want to be on the tools, being a carpenter, being an electrician, being a mechanical guy, or were you looking at the guy in the hat with the drawings and going, no, I'm a PM?
Yeah, the guy in the hat for sure. And it's because the way that I'm just watching as a kid. I don't know anything about construction at that point. But when I'm watching, I see like everybody, even the carpenter, the mason, the excavator operator, they're all coming back to the same guy, right? And I'm like, oh, wait a minute, that's an important dude right there.
Very good. You wanted to be that important dude.
Yeah,
The pressure. So naturally, then going through high school, you wanted to do. So you went and did architectural engineering in King Fahd. What was that like? I'm fascinated about the education program in the US. Give us an insight into what it was like in Saudi Arabia.
absolutely. So King Fahd University is one of the top universities in the Middle East. And what gravitated me towards architectural engineering was that mix, right? The mix of the design aspects, the architecture world, and the engineering, which is, it's more like the calculations and kind of like structural, civil, all that stuff aspects of it, but also encompassing it all within the project management. That's really what it was all about. But you have those snippets from all the different worlds in one program, and it was actually based on Penn State's architectural engineering program that they just kind of like took out there and adopted. So it's a well-known program. Like if you look at Penn State's architectural engineering, that's a world-known kind of program that taps into all these different kind of skills, so to say, then get them all in one under one umbrella.
Brilliant. And so the Penn State influence, was that your first kind of insight into what's going on in the US? Was that kind of, do you think, in your subconscious to end up in the US, or what was the attraction there?
100%. So I have dual citizenship. So I was born here back in 82. So I could come back and forth like freely. But like the connection was really made, like, as I said, with that Penn State program. And I looked them up and I kind of like saw their campus. And I was like excited. That looks like a much better campus than what we have here. But also the professors that taught me, they're coming from that world, right? Some of them went to Penn State. Some of them went to a different university in Canada and northeastern US. And they talked about, how good the programs are there and how education in general, kind of like higher education, and how they actually kind of put that drive in me to continue to seek kind of like a higher education rather than just get your bachelor's and stop and just go to work.
Well, boy, did you listen to them. You went from that to doing a master's at University of Florida, but that was in
Yeah.
building construction in 2009. Talk to me about the difference and what was involved in that particular master's.
It wasn't that different actually. So that it's kind of nomenclature more than anything else, because it's still kind of construction management. It was still project management. Yes, the building construction program didn't have anything to do with the design aspects. That was architectural school. They have their interior design. They have other kind of like landscape architecture, kind of subcategories within it. But building construction was more about like project management, right? And understanding how the different pieces fit together and how do you actually go from a drawing all the way to like a completed facility. So there was a lot of, similarities of what I've seen in my bachelor's degree days, but it was like at a different level, so to say.
Nice transition then, really, from doing the design, the architectural side. That kind of completed you for the full ecosystem and the full process. And then the PhD in design, construction, and planning. What was the thought process, and why did you go for that?
That's a funny story because everybody asks me, it's like, why PhD? Why do you really want to become a? I'm like, no, there was no jobs in 2012. I graduated with my master's. Yeah. I worked for a year in Saudi Aramco. So I went back to Saudi Arabia, and then I came back and I wanted to kind of get a job and get established. But, the market was still recovering from the 2008, 2010 kind of, job market crash, so to say. So there was really nothing to be had back then. It was like really, really hard to find a job. And the university said, hey, we have a scholarship. You're interested? And I'm like, sure, sign me up. I have nothing better to do right now.
Very good. So away you went. How was that? I think you're the first PhD we've had on. Was it difficult? What did it involve?
It's not. So that's something that I also kind of like a misconception that I'll talk to people a lot of times is like, just because somebody has a PhD doesn't make them any smarter than you are. It just means they're more persistent.
Very good.
His PhD is a 4-year program. So imagine you finished your undergrad 4 years and then you're doing a master's in 2 years. and now you're doing another 4 years. It's just a lot, right? So it's all about that persistence. And the PhD is different because it's not focusing on courses and actually completing those credit hours. It's more about research, right? And finding that specific problem that you're going to knack at for 4 years, trying to solve or trying to get, not even solve, you're just trying to get to a conclusion that adds to the body of knowledge for the entire kind of like ecosystem.
Brilliant. So what was your little pointy thing, or what were you pointing at and chipping away at?
I was chipping away at construction management education. So I looked at how do we improve, because I've been doing the same thing. I've been taking classes for the past 6 years, 7 years, and I'm like, this is boring, right? I mean, yes, it gets you the information, but it's like it's a very mundane aspect of like sitting down at a classroom, and then doing your homework, doing a project, and then taking a final exam just to show that you understood everything, right? So what I was trying to solve for is like, how do we make construction management education a little bit more engaging, a little bit more fun? So I actually designed and developed a video game that teaches construction management education processes. So it puts you in this kind of virtual job site, and you have an amount of cash available, and you have tasks that are coming that you need to make sure that you have your resources available.
I love it.
Yeah, and you're just kind of trying to win the game by completing the project in time and on budget, so to say.
So you gamified the education program in construction management.
Yeah.
Class. And is it still going? Has it been
It's not. No, it was a PhD research that I couldn't do anything with. As much as I love the University of Florida, go Gators. They're very restrictive on IP, right? So anything that was created and then there, it's owned by the university. So I couldn't really do anything with it outside that. I mean, yes, I could have tapped into the university resources and said, maybe you can help me expand on this and develop like a company out of it. But if it's not my IP, why should I chase it? Right?
And what was the feedback from the students? So I take it you brought it out and you tested it on the kids.
Yes. There was tons of positive feedback on the approach. A lot of the students, they're already gamers, so they're playing games. They're like, yeah, I can play this one, and you're telling me that it's teaching me something without me actually kind of like trying to learn. Brilliant. The coolest thing that I found is, because I did like a control group and an experimental group, and in the control group I did it for two different versions of this, right? One of them was construction management students, and one of them was students from outside the construction, outside the AAC realm, so to say, right? So journalism, like medicine, all of that stuff. And those students that are outside the AAC realm actually learned more than the people from the construction, which was fascinating to me, because I guess those, like the students from the construction world, already have these preconceived notions. So they're not actively trying to learn, right? They're just kind of like going through the clicks. They did learn significantly more than the control group, but the students outside that world actually learned the most.
There you go. And we're going to get into it later on as well. LMS system for pre-construction, innovation, scheduling, whatever it may be. So that ties in nicely. Before we do that, one of the big things that you talk about when I'm watching you on YouTube or these events is the why, the what, and the how to implement, adapt, and train innovation. I want to concentrate on the how, and this is bearing in mind the audience here, it's pre-construction managers, estimators, looking at their company going, I'm still using Excel, I'm still using 2D printouts. They're having the struggle of how to implement this technology.
Right.
What sort of insight can you give us on all of the, not only Haskell, but all of the construction companies that you've worked alongside and spoken to?
Yeah, 100%. So pre-construction is actually one of the most important aspects of any construction-related company. Why? Because it sets up the project for either success or failure, right? So if your estimate is accurate, you're going to be successful. If your schedule is good, you're going to be successful. And if it's not, it's going to hinder the entire life cycle of the project, right? I've been working with Haskell for the past 7, coming up to 8 years now. And I've learned a lot of things when it comes to implementing technologies, right? And that's kind of what drove me to write Paperless Builders, the why, what, and how of construction technology. It's a book. Um, and the how, I know you're interested in the how, which is kind of like the part 3 of the book. So before, part 1 is why, is like it talks about problem statements, right? And then what, it talks about what type of technologies are out there that can solve for the problem statement. But the how is really the important part, right? It's like that's where the beef is, right? That's where the rubber meets the road. And to me, I kind of like distilled it in an acronym called Builders. And the Builders acronym, it's a framework of implementing technologies, and it goes, benchmark. So that's the B. You start with benchmarking your processes. You understand how do you get things done from all the way from inception all the way to completion, and then finding the bottlenecks that you can ingest some technologies to it. And then the U is the users. You always have to talk to people. People are what makes or breaks these technologies. So you have to make sure that you have the buy-in. You have to make sure that they agree to your benchmark, your process mapping, and your problem statements that you're trying to solve, and to the technologies that you're trying to implement. So users is extremely important. And then there's this cycle that we go between the B and U, because you're benchmarking things, you're talking to users, and you're kind of going back and forth and trying to make sure that everything is in line. But even going back, when you find a technology that can solve for a problem statement, you're still going to go back and forth with the users to understand, to get their buy-in and make sure that they will implement it. And that takes you to the I in Builders, which is implementation plan. Making sure that you have everything set in a written kind of document that shows what are we doing, why are we doing it. And then L is learning, so onboarding, training. D is the driver. And this is all based on my personal experiences of actually implementing technologies, because to me, as a technology leader, if I keep driving every implementation, 1, it's not scalable. 2, as soon as I pull my hands out of it, it's going to crumble, because it can't rely on an innovation person or technology person, right? There needs to be a driver from within the group that's looking to push that forward. And then you go to E, which is evaluation, that constant feedback in from the users, and R, reporting, and then S is scaling. And that's a whole other book on its own.
Love it.
Maybe.
So I love that. I love the acronym, and I love the way you've kind of detailed, and it's almost like a workflow. But I want to concentrate on the users and the drivers, right? Because that's essentially what it comes down to. But when you talk about drivers, I thought you were talking about the driver and the need to do it and the why to do it. But you're saying that it has to be a driver within that group of people, or within that site, within that project site, the driver. And as you say, it can't be you all the time. Talk to me a little bit more about that. I mean, how difficult is it to find a driver within a group? Are they easy to find, and are they really good at getting the rest of them to adopt?
They are very difficult to find. But once you find them, they become your best ally, right? And it's all about incentivizing and making sure that you are rewarding their efforts, right? And it's not for naught, right? That's always what breaks a lot of technologies, like when you implement it and then either it doesn't go great, and then you kind of like blaming the people that implemented it rather than the technology. And that's part of the why. It's just what came first, the process or the technology, right? It's like, which one, how do you fit them together? So you need to figure that part out.
And funny, that is one of the key things that I see, and I speak to pre-construction directors, VPs all the time, is they have got a process in place and they can't find a single point solution to fix this one problem or to plug it in. And rather than going out and getting the technology and then adapting your process, is it right that they've got to look at their process and then they get the technology that fits that part of the process?
It's a tough one to crack. So there has to be some morphing from both sides, in my experience, right? You can't just say, this is what the technology is. I need to make sure that my process jives with it. Or you can't say, like, this is my process. I need your technology to do everything that I'm used to, right? I think there needs to be some adapting between the two. And that's when we see, like, some companies talk about build versus buy, right? It's like, should I just build my own technology if I know the process, if I can build it to my needs, would that be better than just buying one? And my answer to that is, by all means, if you have the resources and if you have like a full-time developer stack that are ready to jump and do those developments, then by all means, right? But that's not the case for every company.
No.
And that's why I always preach for buy, and that morphing too. So we have to make sure that you find a technology partner that's willing to work with you and adapt their technology. It's not like, I'm not talking about overhauling. I'm not talking about like changing it completely. I'm talking about there are some tweaks and edits that need to happen in order for it to run the way that your process can be as efficient as possible, right?
Yeah.
It's not just one or the other. Like they have to both be adaptable, so to say.
Yeah, they've both got to flex to find the right model. Yeah. But I think, and I would imagine that the process can't flex too much, because if you're changing the process, then people won't understand it, or they won't understand the why. Going back to the driver. Is it always good? I mean, I'm thinking about a director of pre-con that's going from Excel to a particular pre-construction platform or an estimating platform. Can you have, is it good to put the driver within the team as a super user, or you become the driver?
As a director
Yeah.
level, I would highly encourage to have somebody that is a super user, as you said, right? It's like that's the person that's going to be doing the grunt work, right?
Yeah.
That's the person that's going to be entering the data, that's manipulating it, and why I say it needs to be that person, because that has like a grassroots approach to, or even like bottom up approach of adopting the technology.
Yeah.
Right. You don't want to be just at a VP level, a director level saying, here, guys, this is what we're using right now. I mean, yes, at some points you have to start that conversation, but the adoption, if it's not coming from the bottom up, if it's not grassroots, if it's not people talking to each other and like seeing what's happening and how it can enhance their own lives, right? So this is 100% where technologies fail, is because what's in it for me as a user,
Yeah.
not as the company.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's in it
100%.
for me,
Yeah.
right? And that, if you can't find that, and if you can't get them excited about what's in it for me and have them talk to each other, it's not going to go anywhere.
Yeah, brilliant. But love it. And talk to me now about the pre-construction and estimating, what you're seeing when it comes to innovation. Is there anything out there that excites you? Is there anything that you're looking at right now you think, whoo, this could be a game changer?
Big things happening in pre-con world. Like every other week when I look around, I'm like, oh wait, there's a whole other company over here that's tackling that, and it's a big opportunity, and it's all based on data. Who can have the best data, the cleanest, more structured, that can infer the next iteration, right? So we're seeing all this hype and all this talk about AI and what AI can do for us and what it can unlock in terms of productivity, in terms of accuracy. It all relies on having actionable data that you can train the model on in order to have those insights, right? It's all about forecasting. It's all about seeing the future, so to say. But if you don't have the right data, if you don't have the structured data, if you don't have the clean data, it's just going to make everything way more difficult to get to that level.
Yeah. If you were advising someone now to get their data right prior to implementing or to purchasing some pre-construction technology or some estimating technology, what would your advice be to them? Because there's a lot of companies, mid-sized companies, that, as you say, don't have the money to build it themselves, maybe don't have the huge budget to go and hire 3 or 4 developers or even a data engineer to organize it. It's going to be left to the estimators and pre-con managers. How would you structure that data if they were building medical office buildings, as an example?
Oh, that's a tough one. I mean, your historic data is a gold mine, right? And if you can figure out how to structure it and clean it and make it actionable, that's going to be priority.
Yeah.
But that is a big task that always gets people kind of stuck, and analysis paralysis, right? Is like, but wait a minute, how do I do this? And it just, they get stuck on looking at this historic data. Like they have a bunch of data here, like from the past, 10, 20, 30 years data, but I can't do anything with it because it's not structured, it's messy, it's all over the place. What about if you think about how do I start getting my data in line and structured in a clean fashion from now?
Yeah.
Right? Just focus on this, right? It's like, how do I implement solutions today that helps me structure this data from now forward, right?
Yeah.
And then we'll figure out what to do with the historic data. And that's what I'm seeing is like a lot of people kind of try to focus on that and they just get stuck on it, and then they can't get past it.
Yeah.
And if you can't get past it, that's great. But if you can't get past it, I need you to like focus on from here on. Is like, what are we doing? What platforms can we implement? What standards do we need to adopt to say this is how we structure our data from now on? And that will help you in the long run.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like the old Chinese proverb, when's the best time to plant a tree? 7 years ago. When's the next best time is today. Yeah, and listen, it makes perfect sense. And then not only that, it won't take you long, 2, 3, 6 months to be able to understand going, you know what, the data points that I have selected needs changing. So once you get the data points structured and exactly what you want, you can then dive into the historical data, and we'll surely AI will be able to help with diving into those big data sets, the previous data sets, and pulling out the data points that you need.
In the future, yes, I see that. But currently, and that's kind of the dilemma we have right now, which is all these technology companies that have amazing tools and amazing even AI models, but don't have the data to implement it in. Where we like as construction company, we have tons of data, but we don't know what to do with it. Kind of. So it's all about marrying those two and making sure there's a partnership that's going to be profitable for both parties in order to kind of like really bring it up to the next level.
Yeah. What do you think about sharing data? That's that question, Hamzah.
I can't speak on behalf of Haskell for this, but I'm all for like, look, I've talked to so many of our peers in the industry, right? Even like competitors. And at the end of the day, like one thing that stands out at any conversation is like, we are doing the same thing.
Yeah.
Whereas really there's nothing proprietary, It's like we are doing the same thing. Yes, we have our own means and methods, but that's a drop in the ocean, right? It's like, what are we doing differently, right? It's all about your culture. It's all about your people. It's all about the experiences and how to build on that, right? And how to elaborate on past experiences and make sure that you're not repeating mistakes and getting better and having those relationships with the clients and stuff like that. That's really what it's all about. Everything else is cut and paste. It's literally the same thing.
Yeah.
So to me, like when I talk about sharing data, I'm all for it. I'm like, let's talk. Let's put all our data in one bucket and advance everybody together, right?
Yeah. And I think, and we've talked about it a number of times, there's more work out there for everyone. I mean, there's enough work out there that everyone can, and the people be the differentiator. So tell me now, Hamzah, when you're bringing people on to new technologies, even to your team, we talked earlier about an LMS, a learning management system. How important do you think an LMS system could be to the construction industry? Because I don't think there's an off-the-shelf option. It's fairly new to a lot of companies. I'm not too sure, but Haskell are doing something very, very different, which I think is good.
Yeah, no, I mean, LMS is like when you're talking about like learning development, stuff like that, that's been, tried and there's plenty of different tools. And we have a couple of things that we're working on. It's about like delivering training to your employees to make sure that they're implementing the work in the best way possible, right? And that's great. But we're talking about knowledge management. That's a completely different kind of ball game, and that's kind of part of our mantra in DisruptTech. DisruptTech is kind of like a separate entity within Haskell that does invest, invent, and innovate. part of our innovation program is like we're opening, opportunities for all employees to submit ideas and get into presenting them in front of the executive in a Shark Tank style. And one of the ideas was, hey, we have a lot of lessons learned in our previous projects that we not sharing with each other, so to say, right? So a project manager in, for example, wastewater treatment type of project is not sharing the same lessons learned with somebody who's working on the healthcare, for example. Yes, there could be some very bespoke and very unique lessons learned that don't apply, but in the general scheme of things, there are some lessons that you can use. And the idea is like, let's develop this platform that helps all of our employees from all these different groups, even in the design, even in the pre-construction world, put in all their lessons learned. It's like, here's what we did in this project, and here's what didn't work.
Yeah.
Right. Or here's what worked, and here's how much that saved us, and here's how much this cost us in terms of time or money. And what we're doing right now is we're just ingesting all that data. As I said, like, start now, right, and go to the future. We're just ingesting tons and tons of data. And we started cleaning up the past data, and we have up to like 2,000 lessons learned from all our previous projects that we can actually implement right now. And we're collecting hundreds every month. And what that would do is, in the future state, right, it's like right now we're just collecting. Talk about 2 years from now is like a project. You start a project based on your type of project, location, size. Here's all your lessons. Here's everything that you need to focus on in order to be more profitable, to finish on time, and kind of help drive that knowledge gap that we're seeing too, right? Where there's a lot of workforce that's ready to hit the retirement age, and there's a lot of young folks that are joining the industry, and there's a lot of knowledge gap here. So that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to get all that knowledge from everyone that's highly experienced and have it readily available, so you can actually chat with it, kind of like ChatGPT. You can just ask it a question and it would respond to you with like, well, based on your specific lessons, your specific knowledge, here's the answers that you need to take a look at.
Wow, knowledge retention. We cannot yet. Elon Musk is working on it, downloading people's brains. But as of yet, sounds like a great answer.
Yeah. We worked with Via Technical, who's been an amazing partner. So the product is called Precogs, and it's available if you go to viatechnic.com right now. I think you can find the link for it.
Brilliant. Shout out to Via Technic, guys. Excellent. Lovely. Love hearing that. Talk to me now before you head off, Hamzah. We could literally talk all day about this. Paperless Builders is a book that you've launched recently. I mean, this kind of ties into what you've just described there. Getting things off paper into digital form so that it's easily searchable, so that it's easily visualized. We're all visual people. Talk to me at a high level what Paperless Builders is about and what people can expect from the book.
I've gotten so many different responses to that title. One of them is this a sustainability book? I'm like, it has sustainability aspects to it, but it's not the main, message to it, right? And then the other thing is like, you're saying paperless builders, but you're printing on paper. Yes. And it is because, and there's a differentiator here that I really want to kind of make clear is, when I'm talking about paperless builders, I'm talking about like as a project level, right? And a project level, anything that's on paper or even paper-like, that's talking about email, Excel, PDFs, those are disconnected, right? So you can't really share information back and forth with different parties. That's the move to the digital world.
Yeah.
But I'm talking about like you by yourself in your office, you're doing things, you're organizing your thoughts. You can use paper all day long. I actually do that myself. That's the difference here, is like, it's not about information for me and organizing my own thoughts and my own processes. It's about how do I share information with the rest of the team and the stakeholders, right? Even not just within the company, but outside. So trade partners, owners, municipalities, utility providers. There's so many different stakeholders that a piece of paper does not go back and forth and convey the same information, right? Because as soon as you print it,
Yes. Oh, listen, I'm the same. I'm the same. I do to-do lists. I put down thoughts on paper.
100%.
But it's amazing. So what is your advice? I mean, as director of innovation at Haskell, what advice are you giving Haskell on this? I mean, what tools are you seeing that will complement this?
So project management, or it's kind of like a system of record. That's the step one, right? Is like you want to make sure that everybody's managing their projects in the same platform,
Mm-hmm.
because that will help you ingest and collect all that data in a very structured way, in a very clean way that you can act upon it at a later date. That's kind of step one. Step two is there's tons and tons of collaboration tools out there. You're talking about like scheduling, you're talking about estimating, you're talking about quantity takeoffs. There's so many different tools that we can, like, you can have 3 to 4 different people or even more be in the same platform and seeing the data being updated live, right? That's what gets me excited. It's like when we're seeing things happen in real time together as a team, it's much better than, oh wait, let me print you the latest PDF and email it to you.
Yeah, that's
And then you'll see
that's the
what you can
magic.
do with it.
That's the magic. Collaboration in real time, lifetime. I mean, we're a society now that expects things instantaneously. Even sitting waiting for something to print out is like, ooh, what am I going to do? Yeah, it's. I agree with you. Yeah. What do you use internally? Did you proprietary build something? Did you purchase something?
We purchased a lot of tools. So we're a Procore shop, so that's our kind of like main system of record. Microsoft is our backend, and so many different tools that connect to those systems, right? Um, Talk about like Outbuild for like scheduling and making sure that, especially sending a P6 export to the field, forget about PDFs, man. It's like nobody looks at a PDF, right? And actually, that's the joke that I got from Inertia Systems guy Matt, who says, "You know what PDF stands for?" And I'm like, "No, I actually don't." Like, pretty dumb format. That's what PDF stands for, because it's very static, right? And it's not user friendly. It's not, especially when we're talking about like a 500 line item schedule that you want to look at one shot. It's, you can't really figure it out
Yeah.
on the fly. So we kind of like take that P6 schedule and push it out to Outbuild so the team can use it and interact with it in a much more user-friendly way. And it's live update, so everybody can see what's being worked on today, what's being worked on next week, and update accordingly. That's
Brilliant.
just one example, but yeah.
Outbuild, I like that. What do you do for pre-con and estimating?
I can't speak on their behalf because I know they're in between systems, so to say.
Yeah, good. They're in the
So
market. We
I don't
like
want
it.
to kind of like let the can or the worms out of the can, so to say. Not yet,
Yeah,
but we're big proponents of join.build.
yeah,
So that's a big one that really helped us with a lot of the GMP kind of pricing and talking with owners.
brilliant.
But as like a main system, we're still kind of
Figuring it out. Yeah,
yeah.
love it. Exciting times, exciting times. Well, listen,
Absolutely.
Hamza, it's been absolutely brilliant. Delighted. This has been a breath of fresh air, just as good as I thought it would be.
Thank you,
Looking
Gareth.
forward to getting a read of the book, Paperless Builders. If there is anybody out there that's got a question about what we've discussed, got a question for you, talking about where to get the book, where's the best place to get you?
I'm on LinkedIn almost every hour. So if you go to LinkedIn, and just look up Hamzah Shanbari, I'm probably the only one. But the book can be found on Amazon and Barnes and Noble or wherever you find your book. Ebook versions are also available. Audiobook coming up in early 2025.
Nice. That'll be good. Looking forward to that. Well, listen,
Yeah.
I'll put all those links in the show notes, folks. For anybody looking to purchase a book or get in touch with Hamza, I'll put his LinkedIn profile there and also a link to the Amazon for purchase of the book. Hamza, thank you very much. Good luck with the Innovation Week next week. I look forward to hearing what comes out of it.
Thank you so much, Gareth. I appreciate the time and having me.